all heard about how first impressions matter. Let's be honest. What do you first notice about a person? The clothes, right? Your clothing has the power to shape impressions, convey identity, and influence confidence. In a world where first impressions matter, this aspect invites reflection on the intricate relationship between personal style and the image we project to the world. Hi, I'm Tej. I host Chezuba Talks, a series of podcasts dedicated to sharing inspiring stories of incredible people. And incredible people we are talking to today, allow me to introduce Andrew Madan Ramroop, an exceptionally talented artist renowned for his exquisite craftsmanship. Andrew Ramroop OBE, Order of the British Empire, has had the privilege of creating bespoke garments for some of the most discerning clients. Politicians, captains of industry, entertainers, and international business people from all over the world make their way to Maurice Sedwell with the knowledge that they will be dressed to perfection. And he also runs the Savile Row Academy, a limited liability company and registered charity. Welcome to Chezuba Talks, Andrew.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Truly honored and very excited to have you speak today. Andrew, you are highly decorated, highly recommended, and vastly sought after. I'd love for you to tell us about your and Savile Row Academy's beginnings.
Well, my early beginnings is in Trinidad and Tobago. I had always aspired to be a tailor, always wanted to learn to make shirts like what I'm wearing and pants, as we say in Trinidad. I did not want to go on to further education for lots and lots of reasons. But I think perhaps the early beginnings that I wanted to become a tailor was influenced very much by the lack of having too much by way of clothing and so on. And I felt that the only way I can get it is to make it. And I used to hang around a tailor shop in the village in Tunapuna, where I am in Trinidad, and really looking over the wall and seeing the tailors work, not really learning anything officially, but just being where the excitement was.
Observing.
It's like an aspiring young cricketer looking at a cricket game and thinking, oh, I would like to be involved, and then gradually getting involved in the game and learning. For me, learning tailoring was like a child learning a new language or learning to play a musical instrument. I found it very, very easy to put garments together. And so I sought apprenticeship. I left school at a very young age. I was not yet 14 years old when I left school. And I went on, I did my apprenticeship. I learned to make trousers very quickly. And then I aspired to learn to make jackets. That also I learned to make very quickly. So before I was 15 years old, I was able to make jackets and trousers. And so I worked and worked extremely hard. The working hours of a young tailor, or any tailors for that matter, it's not 9 to 5. For me, I started at 20 minutes past 7 in the mornings. I would come in at 20 past 7, sweep the shop, put the lights on, switch the irons on. And by 7:30, I started work. And I would finish at 9 at night. So my day was a 12-hour day. And I was, just over 14 years old. So I put in a lot of hours in learning the trade. And so from that age to when I was 17 and a half, I was making beautiful garments. And I was encouraged by a lot of people that I should go to America or to go to Canada. And the reason why they were encouraging me is because I will do the same amount of work and I will get double pay, because it was $2 to $1 Trinidad dollar at a time. But I had heard of Savile Row, where, presidents, Hollywood stars, the rich and famous, that's where they go to have their suits made. It is the pinnacle of sartorial excellence. And like a young athlete, I suppose, wanting to be in the Olympics and wanting to win a gold medal, I wanted to go into Savile Row and practice what I have learned. also wanting to develop my career. And so I saved every cent I earned. And just about everything I earned, I saved and saved and saved. And so by the time I was 17 and a half years old, I had enough money to buy a boat ticket, not a plane ticket. And I bought a boat ticket. And I often say I sailed to Savile Row. I didn't sail to London or sail to Europe or sail to England. I sailed to Savile Row because that was my, if you use the term like a horse's blanket, I was sort of a horse's blind, let's say. I was
Yes.
focused on going on to Savile Row and developing a career on Savile Row.
Right.
And I got a job straight away on Savile Row, but I felt if I really wanted to get ahead and I wanted to excel, I needed to learn formalized way of Savile Row pattern drafting and cutting and fitting, diagnosis and remedy. So diagnosing the problems of the fitting, knowing what the remedy would be, and so on. I needed formalized training. And so I continued to work and work extremely hard. Now, from age 14 to 17 and a half years old, I was working 12 hours a day. And when I got to London, when I got to Savile Row, it was start at 8 a.m. and finish at 6 p.m. And it was 5 days a week. So suddenly I had all this extra time on my
Time
hands.
on your hands, yes.
And I had Saturdays off, I had Sundays off, I had evenings. And so I got another job. And then I got a second job. I got a third job. And then I was doing 3 jobs at a time. So I was working at Huntsman's on Savile Row during the week. And I had an evening job in Soho making trousers for another tailor. And on Saturdays, I had a job where all the excitement of British fashion was on the King's Road in Chelsea. I was doing alterations. So I had a Saturday job, I had an evening job, and then I had a full-time job at Huntsman's. So I saved. Again, saving is in my DNA. I saved as much as I possibly can. And I went on to London College of Fashion, the University of the Arts. And there I I signed up for a 3-year degree in bespoke tailoring. Now that 3-year degree really focuses on all of the values and all of the modules that I needed to learn to actually excel on Savile Row. And so having completed the first year, the principal invited me to complete the 3-year degrees in 2 years. And in 2 years, I completed a 3-year degree. So after the first year, I skipped the second year and went on to the third. That was very special because as a foreign student, I was paying £900 a year school fee. And £900 a year, way back in the early 70s, was a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money. Still is a lot of money. But I worked extremely hard. And I saved as much as I could. And 15 students get selected for the first year. And 10 get selected for the second year. And then 8 get selected for the final year. So for me, after the first year, to be promoted onto the final year was very special. Not only was I saving £900 in fees, but I was able to get back to Savile Row 1 year earlier. And I, got recommendations for interviews, and I failed at all the interviews because I didn't look right. I didn't speak right. And at that time, not only racism was rife, but, if you weren't Anglo-Saxon, if you weren't Caucasian, you weren't getting a look in at the front of a shop. And having started tailoring when I was just 14 years old, and now I'm 22 years old. No, I'm 22 years old. This is 1974. I'm 22 years old. And I'm looking for a job at the front of the shop where I could meet customers, where I could meet all of those famous people that I've heard about and all those wealthy people. But the only jobs I was offered is at the back room. I couldn't get a job at the front of a shop. And so I turned down all the offers at the back room, but they wouldn't offer me any jobs at the front. And so I decided that I'm not going to accept any of those offers. And I'd go back into the college and say to the principal, Mr. Clark, a very fine gentleman, I said I didn't get the job. He knew why, but I didn't know why because I didn't understand racism. And one tailor said to me that our customers would not take kindly to a foreigner. But if you wanted a job on the back room, then we'll take you. And so that was my early experience of racism that I did not recognize. I did not think it was the way I looked, the way I speak. I had no idea why it was. Because coming from Trinidad, I never heard the word racism.
True.
There is Afro-Trinidadians, there's Chinese Trinidadians, there are Arab Trinidadians, lots of Spanish Trinidadians, there are Indo-Trinidadians. So we are very much of a cosmopolitan society. But having gone to the UK and not, this was totally foreign to me. However, Maurice Sedwell, after every other student was placed, Maurice Sedwell called the college and asked if there was any graduates. And I was the only one that was left.
Okay.
And so Mr. Maurice Sedwell took me on a 4-week trial. And after the first or second week, he said to me, "Oh, you don't have to worry about the trial. You got a job here." And so that was in July 1974. Next year will be 50 years since I've been at Maurice Sedwell. The difference, however, is that I now own the company.
Yes. And you decided to keep the name.
I decided to keep the name Maurice Sedwell because he's the only one who gave me a chance. So as a tribute to Mr. Maurice Sedwell, I kept the name. But not only that, my focus had been on building a brand with a reputation for quality and service and not building a personality. And so I kept the name to build a brand as what it stood for, a pedigree of very fine tailoring. And I trained all the tailors that worked for me. In the interim, the new principal of the London College of Fashion invited me to lunch and said, "I want you to apply for a full-time job teaching at the London College of Fashion."
Life comes full
circle. And I said, yeah, well, absolutely. And I said that my preference is to work on Savile Row. And so they offered me a part-time position, and I taught on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays on evening classes. And so I started that way back in 1976.
Okay.
And so I taught at the London College of Fashion from 1976 to 1988. I taught for 12 years evening classes. And so part of my DNA, if you like, has been in sharing knowledge and experience. And so what I did is, when I was a student, because I had prior knowledge, other students used to come to me for tuition. Because the teacher would be explaining what to do, and I would be able to assimilate that information very, very easily and put it into practice, whereas they had to learn. And so some of the students used to come to me and I would show them. And I was developing an ability to share my knowledge, to teach others without realizing that is what was happening to me. And so when I got the evening class position a couple of years after leaving, it was very easy for me to continue teaching. And so everyone that worked at Maurice Sedwell, or the apprentices, I would teach them. I became very active in the Tailors Association. I was voted to become president of the Tailors Association. And coincidentally, there were 39 companies that were members of the Tailors Association. And I tried to get training in a formalized capacity on the agenda, but the association would not accept it for very selfish reasons. And so I said, after 7 years as being president, I decided that I'm going to resign and to start the Savile Row Academy.
Let's take a break to understand what Chezuba is. Everyone at some point ponders on how this beautiful life can be made more meaningful. Maybe you're a leader trying to enhance your employees' experience at your organization. Or you already work for the community and seek volunteers with state of the art skills to strengthen your nonprofit. Whatever your situation, know that you can make a difference. Chezuba began with this very vision, a vision to facilitate every skill and every passion in the world in meeting a social need. Corporate volunteering has several benefits for both businesses and organizations. In parallel, experienced and enthusiastic volunteers join NGO workers, enabling them to serve the community more effectively. Chezuba offers everyone looking to add purpose and meaning to their lives a chance to connect or volunteer virtually with nonprofit organizations from over 100 countries around the world. Visit www.chezuba.net and explore opportunities to find meaning. Chezuba, your platform to do good. And now, back with our guest.
Because there were so many applicants, people coming into Savile Row looking for apprenticeships, and they weren't successful. And I thought my interest was to provide formalized training in all the disciplines: pattern drafting, pattern cutting, fitting, tailoring of all the garments. And so with all the skills, you can then decide whether you wanted to start your own collection, whether you wanted to work for someone else and get some experience, or whether you just wanted to go out there and start your own business, you know. And so that's what I did. Well, comparatively recently, for all of the years I've been on Savile Row and in the UK, I went there in 1970. So that's 53 years ago. And so I felt that if I trained tailors to the highest standard attainable, it was almost like putting them through an interview process, because I'm getting to learn their aptitude, their attitude towards work,
Right.
and whether they had a certain amount of natural ability.
Right.
And so I would cherry pick those who I felt were possible
Gifted, talented.
employees, employed them. And I still have, from my first student in January 2008, I still have one of those persons work for me. His name is Damish Parma. And Damish still works for me. And now Damish teaches at the Savile Row Academy.
Wow, what a story, Andrew. That's amazing. Right from the beginnings of your tailoring and to the academy, what a story. I believe you need to write an autobiography of this entire story.
Well, my autobiography is very active at the moment. I have Professor Henry Louis Gates, a very famous professor at Harvard University.
Wow.
He
All right.
approached me to write my autobiography, and we've completed approximately 30 hours of interviews, and they're having the
Wonderful.
interviews transcribed by a writer. And I am now critiquing and looking at the first of 5 parts that they've written, or
Lovely.
they've put together. And so they've sent me 6,500 words of the first part, and I've been looking at it and writing and rewriting, and so far I've got it up to almost 12,000 words. And so I'll get it done. I'll get the first part done very soon. First of 5 parts done very soon. And hopefully, maybe, you know what? You're the first stage that's hearing about this, but probably it's been 50 years since I've been on Savile Row, at Maurice Sedwell, that is. And so hopefully we'll get a publisher, and it will be part of the 50th anniversary publication, my autobiography.
That's beautiful. I wish you all the luck and all the success, and please remember me when that comes out.
Of course I will. Of course I will. And everyone else is listening and watching.
Yes, absolutely. I'm privileged. Thank you for telling us on this podcast.